Bluff City Media presents Tigers Live with Francis Carlota. Join Francis after every Memphis Tiger game as he breaks down each matchup, player of the game, and upcoming games. Now, let's get to the show.
What's going on, y'all? Man, goodness gracious. How's your heart feeling? How's your heart feeling, Kenny?
So just behind the scenes for everybody that's here, we jumped in here to get ready to do the show, and I go, Francis, you loved that, didn't you? And the look on your face was, oh,
oh baby. Well, yeah. Memphis gets out of Virginia with a victory.
Get out of Virginia.
Get out of there. Get out. I think Charlottesville, right? Charlottesville, Virginia. Get out of there. Memphis escape 64-62. I am Francis Carlotta, host of Tigers Live for Bluff City Media. That's Kenny Stubblefield. Roman Clear is going to be on in just a second, and we're going to talk about it all, break this all down, and shout out to everybody. And there's Roman. Roman, how you doing, baby?
Hey, before we break down the game, I want to give a big shout out.
What's going on, guys?
I want to give a big shout out. My brother-in-law Bobby and my nephew Caleb were sitting front row at the game tonight, wearing their Memphis gear, cheering on the Tigers. Yeah. They live in Virginia. They got tickets. They decided to go. Shout out to them. Good job getting a win for the Tigers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So shout out to your brother-in-law for sure.
Sorry.
How you doing, Roman?
I'm doing well. Big win tonight for Memphis, obviously. A bit too close for comfort, probably. But that's what's going to happen when you struggle in the first half as much as Memphis did offensively. But the Tigers, largely dominated the second half. I think they started out leading the second half 26-9 after Virginia. But Virginia closed the gap a little bit after that. But Memphis went on a 26-9 run to start the second half. Tremendous, final 20 minutes from PJ Haggerty. Obviously, he scored 21 points in the second half to finish with 27. Dane Danjo obviously comes up huge as well with the double-double. He really kept Memphis in it in the first half, just being honest there. If it wasn't for what he did in that first half, who knows where this game ends up. But at the end of the day, all that matters for Memphis is that it got out with the win tonight. Another Quad 2 victory for the Tigers. This is their third Quad 2 win and fourth Quad 1 win as things stand right now. I mean, Memphis had up to 5 Quad 1 wins, I believe, on Monday, but that has since dropped to 4, and now they have 3 Quad 2 wins with the win at Virginia tonight.
Who dropped out of the Quad 1?
I believe it was Missouri.
Oh, because they lost. Who'd they lose to? They lost last night, right?
I'm not completely sure.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I think they lost last night. Anyway, no big deal. Yeah.
As Wayne Kelly said, winning on the road is hard, no matter who you're playing. It could be Virginia, who have bad losses in their resume, who struggle to beat bad teams without Tony Bennett. But winning on the road is hard, and at least Memphis got the job done. So good for the Tigers to come out of Virginia with a W. We can just start on that atrocious first half. I mean, to basically forget how to shoot from 3, and then just keep turning the ball over left, right, center, which is what Memphis has struggled with the whole entire year with turnovers. It was about as bad as the first half of basketball you could have seen. But I stayed positive. I tried to stay positive on Twitter, at least. They were only down 9, even with that atrocious half of basketball. They showed signs of stepping it up on the defensive side to close the first half. So from y'all's perspective, was the first half as bad as I'm making it out to be? Was it genuinely atrocious, or how do y'all feel?
Oh, I mean, shooting wise, yeah. Like it was, I mean, I think the entirety of the game was rough, right? Like in terms of shooting, just the outside shot wasn't falling for him tonight, and I mean so yeah, I don't think you're overreacting to I will say this. There's different levels of badness to me, right? Like shots fall, shots don't. That happens. So if we want to call that bad, that's bad. Effort was there, intensity was there. It wasn't like the Arkansas State game where it felt like they just weren't playing, like they just were not there. At least to me, that's what it felt like as I was watching it through the screen. But yeah, I mean, if we want to call it bad just because the shots weren't falling, then yes, a lot of turnovers, bad shots, but the energy and effort was there.
Yeah, go ahead, Roman. What you think?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, yeah, I definitely can't say that this was the worst half of the year. I still distinguish that to Arkansas State, like I would assume Kenny does as well, based off of what he just said. I mean, yeah, they didn't make shots, but they had good looks. They were just missing them. That's just the reality of the situation. Sometimes that's just going to happen. That's just what happens in basketball sometimes. So I'm not going to call this the worst half of the year or anything like that. I mean, obviously it was far from ideal, but I wouldn't call it the worst half of basketball Memphis played. I would argue that the first half against Missouri was worse. I would argue that the first half against Arkansas State was definitely worse. I mean, I think you would point maybe even the first half at UNLV was overall worse than what we saw tonight.
This is why I love the game of basketball so much, because I love that you have a game that, like, football's such a cool sport, right? But most of the time, unless you're Travis Hunter, you have 11 dudes that play offense and 11 dudes that play defense, and you have probably maybe 6 or 7, 8 new guys coming in and playing special teams. And so it's almost like you have 3 different units that are going out to play these different, I guess, parts of the game. In basketball, it's 5 versus 5, and they're doing it all. Whoever's on the floor, they're playing offense, they're playing defense. And this is what I love about basketball so much, is that you just have this, even when one part of your game is not going well, the same guys that are missing those shots, those wide open threes that they're getting, can also then go back on the other side of the floor and guard well, play with intensity, play with intent, play with, rebound the ball well. They can do different things and impact winning in different ways, right? Like if a quarterback is out there and he's throwing the ball and he is just sailing dudes' heads nonstop and can't get the ball to the receivers, then he ain't going out and covering cover 2, a wide receiver down the middle of the field to make up for it. But a guy like Colby Rogers, right, can go out and shoot, 1 for 11, for the entirety of the game, but still play hard defense, still rebound the ball well, still do all those things, and you can impact winning. And this is why I think basketball is such a beautiful sport, because even when things weren't going well in that first half, the Tigers there were still things that were happening that were impacting winning by guys who were missing shots. This is not just a make or miss game. This is a impact winning game. And I think the Tigers have dudes that impact winning even when the thing that they do the best isn't going well.
Yeah, and Rodgers is not going 1 of 11 for ever again.
Ever.
I can almost guarantee that's never going to happen again.
You could blindfold that dude. You could blindfold him and he wouldn't go 1 for 11.
Yep.
I mean, man, he had the looks. He had all the open looks. They just weren't falling. I got to tell y'all, like, something is up with the right side basket at Virginia. Like, something is up with that one. Like, it's like I can't even count how many shots I saw go in and out of that basket. Like,
oh my God.
It was a pretty wild number. Like, something is up.
Someone tightened the screws on that rim,
I mean, because like when Memphis was shooting on that goal in the first half, all sorts of shots were going in and out, and then switched it over to Virginia in the second half. Same thing happened. I mean, yeah. I'm not shocked that the losing team, of both halves was shooting on that side of the court. I'm definitely not shocked. I'll say that.
That's a good point. I like that.
Yeah, I like that as well. Maybe some bad juju on that side for sure. But Kenny, that's a great point from you, man. I talked about this on the last episode too. I love when players who are traditionally scorers, whenever they can't score, they find other ways to impact winning basketball. I mean, that to me is what basketball is all about. You may not be your night just scoring on whatever night, any given night it may be, but even if it's not, you have to find other ways to impact winning. And this was tonight's game. Memphis found other ways to impact winning basketball. And I'll expand on, I guess, stats a little bit later, but I want to bring up this comment from Timo. Nice adjustments at halftime with pressure. Also, the high ball screen cut. It shouldn't have been close though. 100% Timo. This game should not have been close.
Hey,
No
Vegas
question.
thought it was going to be close. Vegas thought
Oh,
it
really?
would be. Vegas,
What was
the line was
I don't know.
four.
I don't
was
know.
four.
Being a 4-point favorite on the road though is pretty astronomical. I'd say that rarely happens.
Yeah, Memphis was -4 on the road. I mean, it was. I mean, it was. You know, they didn't cover. Which what are they? Good teams win. Great teams cover.
Whatever.
Losers betting on games like that. Anyway, I won't say that. But yeah, no, I think that it was. It shouldn't have been. They played better. Like it shouldn't have been. The final score shouldn't have been as close, but it was, and I'm not surprised. Like it just was. It's hard to win road games. It's hard in college basketball to win road games. It just is.
I mean, anyone with eyes could see that Memphis is clearly the better of the two teams here. I mean, there's just no denying that. But
Yeah.
Virginia has a style and a culture and a presence that can give any team fits on any given night, and that's just kind of what we saw here. I mean, Virginia was only allowing opponents to score 60 something points a game, heading into this one, and we saw why. I mean, they're a very solid, intense defensive team, and while they don't really make up for a lot of offensive production, in fact they are the slowest offense in college basketball. Pretty much, they were last in pace heading into this game, and they finished last in pace 2 times in the last 3 seasons, and this would make it 3 of the last 4 if their current pace kind of remains the same as it is.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on those halftime adjustments made by Penny and the coaching staff and just the team as a whole. One of them, one big one for me, was a clear intention on attacking the rim with knowing that Memphis was struggling from deep. I had it at the under 12 media timeout. Memphis only attempted 1 3-pointer up until the point at that point in the half. And I thought it was a clear effort to A, continue attacking the rim, and B, get to the free throw line. Memphis did not get to the free throw line in the first half really at all. But then the second half, that changed. PJ was more aggressive. He got to the line more often. So I thought that was a really good adjustment by Penny at half and by the staff as a whole. What other adjustments did y'all see that really were effective in the second half?
I mean, I think Memphis increased its defensive pressure a ton. I mean, we see it from the comment with Timo right there. That was definitely the most noticeable one to me. But I think, like you said, Francis, the one that I noticed the most was definitely their willingness to attack the paint a lot more often. I mean, they had already notched 12 points in the paint in their first 12 field goal attempts of the second half. And that is a pretty astronomical shift from what we saw after they shot just 2 of 14 from 3-point range in the first half, and they only attempted 9 3-pointers in the second half. I thought it represented a real ability from Penny Hardaway to really change the offensive philosophy just like that in order to come away with a win. And that's been a common criticism of Penny throughout his tenure at Memphis. His hesitation to make those kinds of adjustments, but got to give him credit here. He definitely did that tonight.
Yeah, I think that I 100% agree with what Roman is saying. I think that Penny's ability to one of the things that coaches have to be able to do in halftime adjustments when they're making those kind of changes is what can your halftime adjustments impact the game, right? Like can they change the direction of the game for your team? And what I mean by that is like, and one of the hardest ways to do it is to force a team to do things that they don't want to do. Force a team to play a style of game that they don't want to play. Virginia wants to play slow. They want to be a slow pace. They do not want to shoot. I think Timo said it in the comments. They want to wait until 7 seconds left in the clock. Every single shot possession, they want to be able to wait. Memphis's decision, what Penny Hardaway did in the second half was force them out of that and force them to make faster decisions. And a team that plays slow, forcing them to play fast, is a recipe for disaster for that team. A team that plays fast can go slow, but a team that plays slow, it is very difficult for them to adjust to a fast-paced game.
Yeah, changing the pace to that more fast-paced, style, as you mentioned, it's how Memphis blew out Virginia last season. And that's kind of what I was thinking was going to happen here again, because my mindset heading into this game was, okay, so Memphis blew out Virginia last year when they had a worse team, And now they're in a situation where they have a better team, whereas Virginia, they have a worse team, worse roster, and with no disrespect to Ron Sanchez, I mean, Tony Bennett just retired, so lesser coaching. So my mindset was, okay, the same thing is likely going to happen again. And it did in the second half, but it didn't in the first half, which is why this game was as close as it was, probably at least. But I did mention in my preview, even though I predicted a blowout win for Memphis, that for this game to be close, for Virginia to have a chance at winning, Memphis would have to, have a horrible shooting day. And that's kind of what happened. I mean,
And they did.
They only shot 22% from three in the first half. No, for the entire game. They shot 14%.
Game,
yeah.
The entire game.
Yeah, 14% in the first half and 22% for the entire game. And that's and even to get to that 22% mark, they had to shoot 33% from three. That was that was 3 of 9. I mean, they only hit three pointers in the second half, but all 3 of them, I have to say, felt pretty huge. I mean, the one from PJ Carter to beat the shot clock, the one from Rogers to build a bit more separation. Of course, the step back at the top of the key from PJ Haggerty to push the lead back up to 7, which was probably the biggest shot of the entire game. So Memphis didn't get the most 3-pointers that they're kind of used to here, considering they were the number 2 3-point shooting team in the country percentage wise heading into this one. But the ones that they did get felt pretty astronomical.
Yeah, timely shooting is key, man. Right? Like you don't make them all, but when you make them count. Right? Like that's what the Tigers did tonight. Good teams do that. Good teams make timely shots, right? Like you can do that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I agree with him. There's somebody in the comments that Eric
Penny got out-coached again.
Don't listen to him. Don't listen to that.
Penny's second half adjustments is the reason Memphis won the game. I mean,
there's that Roman
Haggerty's performance was huge, but I mean, come on, man.
Roman, I love all the people that tune into this live show, but there are certain fans that tune in that just Penny is a dumbass and can't coach, and so anyway, Eric G keeps saying I bashed him the last time we mentioned it.
What? I don't remember this.
I remember this.
I got it. It was me. It was me.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I'll hand up. It was me. It was the Louisiana Tech game. Where Eric made a comment. First of all, Eric, thank you for tuning in again. Appreciate that. I appreciate. So first of all, appreciate you. Second of all, yes, I gave flack for the comment because against Louisiana Tech, they had a clear point guard who could break presses and take advantage when Memphis was out of control in their press. So it's a case-by-case basis. Virginia, they don't have a point guard. Their best point guard left when Tony Bennett retired. So Virginia don't have no ball handler. So of course you press Virginia. Of course you press them. Are you kidding me?
Their lead ball guy turned the ball over 6 times in that game on the press. So
the announcer is giving so much crap. Like, no, it's a case-by-case thing. Do
fans not know? Do y'all not know that not every game is a copy and paste game, right? Like you can't copy and paste game plans, right? Like that is what's been so crazy about this season is the Tigers have won in multiple ways. And like, you should absolutely take an encouragement from the fact that they won that Clemson game because Colby Rogers and Tyrese Hunter went nuclear from the 3-point line.
Like
they won tonight because Dane Danger and PJ Haggerty dominated the paint.
Just to compare and contrast those two games. I mean, pressing Clemson as relentlessly as they pressed Virginia tonight, that probably would have been a bad idea. You want to know why? Because Clemson has Chase Hunter.
Yeah.
But Virginia doesn't have a ball handler like that. So you press them more. It's a pretty simple concept, pretty simple idea. Going to Mississippi State, their next game, they have Josh Hubbard. So
and he's very good.
You're probably not going to be able to press them as often because Josh Hubbard can easily, or at least more easily, escape those situations. I mean, when you have to press Andrew Rohde as the lead ball handler.
Listen,
I mean,
the three of us could press Andrew Rohde and get turnovers.
For real. For real. No, but Eric, again, thank you for tuning in again. I appreciate you.
Yes.
I appreciate you. Second of all, it's a case-by-case thing, man. Like it's not that simple. It's like Kenny and Roman said, you can't just copy and paste game plans.
Man.
So tonight, it made sense to press
Right.
Virginia. And as Roman, Kenny, people in comments have talked about, that was a big reason why Memphis was able to get it done on the road. Big reason why. And the other big reason why was a dude named PJ Haggerty.
Oh my
So player of the game, right? Pretty easy. It's got to be PJ.
I mean, yeah, it is Haggerty. I mean, I have to shout out Danger once again for his
Dude,
double-double.
Dane.
Yeah,
And
gotta shout
again,
out
just
to him.
honestly keeping Memphis in the game in the first half. But
Yes.
yeah, what Haggerty did in the second half definitely earns him player of the game here tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what was his stat line? He went 8 for 15, 1 for 3 from the 3-point line, 10 for 11 from the free throw line, 27 points, 1 steal, 5 assists, 5 rebounds. He had 4 turnovers, which is rough, but I think most of those were in the first half. Is that right?
Let's see. First half turnover. No, two in the first half, 2 in the second.
Okay, so he evenly distributed them. Okay, I feel like the more impactful turnovers were in the first half. But I just remember those better than I do the second half ones. But no, PJ was clearly the player of the game. I do again shout out Dane, man. Like, I freaking love Dane Danger, man. I love the way he plays ball. Coach Wayne Kelly says it. He says, free Dane Danger to start the game. We'll get into that in a second. But when the three isn't falling, the guards aren't passing to the post to Musa. But as soon as Dane enters the game, they look inside the post, and mostly it's productive. I completely agree with that. He is just he kept them in the game in that first half with his play.
Yeah, Danger finished the first half with 9 points and 6 boards, and no other Tiger scored more than 6 in the first half, and only four Tigers scored for the entire first half, and it was 3 for the longest time until PJ Carter just randomly got that 3 at the end of the half.
Yeah,
I mean, Memphis struggled so much offensively. I mean, we've kind of rehashed that, but again, just going back to the turnovers that you kind of brought up a second ago, Kenny. I mean, Virginia scored 14 points off of turnovers in the first half. That's nearly half of their first half offensive production. If Memphis doesn't turn the ball over, in that fashion, especially towards the beginning of the first half, the game still probably ends up being a lot closer at half, even with, Memphis shooting as bad as they did in the opening period.
Yep.
Is that a concern for y'all? Like what is it about? Is it the adjustments, or what is it? What's happening in the first half? Because that's becoming a trend, I think, right? Where mass amount of turnovers in the first half, and then they knock it down. Because I think if you were to look at, and Penny has said this, we talked about it in the Clemson game. Penny has talked about the 2 stats that he looks at the most for this team in terms of that impact winning: rebounding and points off turnovers. And
the turnover battle still ended up at 12-11 after all that, by the way.
But it did, and the same thing happened against Clemson, right? Where they were down by like double digits in points off turnovers against Clemson in the first half. Even going into like the last 10 minutes of the second half, they were way down. And they ultimately, in the last 10 minutes in overtime, narrowed that gap. And they did the same thing tonight. Is that a concern for y'all, moving forward? Where and why is that happening? Why are the Tigers turning the ball over so much in the first half?
No, we're a month and a half into the season at this point. It's less of a concern and just more of a thing that you have to deal with, I think, because I mean it's 11 games in. This is the hardest competition you're going to play all year, at least before the NCAA tournament. And I mean, I don't know, maybe playing in the AAC will give you an opportunity to, fix some of those kinks out or whatever. But at the end of the day, I'm not really going to consider myself concerned about it because it's just been kind of a normal occurrence, at this juncture.
Yeah, I agree. Roman hit the nail on the head. It just is what it is. To answer the other part of your why, Kenny, why it's happening, I don't say this to be rude or demeaning or anything. It's just got to be a mentality thing. They just got to go into the game ready to ball, play more disciplined basketball. Don't force the issue. Don't force passes. It's a lot of turnovers are mental. It's just not being fully locked in for whatever reason that may be. And it's up to the coaching staff. It's up to the players as well. Obviously, it's easy for fans to give blame on the coaching staff for not getting the players ready. But at some point in time, it's also up to the players to get them mentally
These are
prepared.
adults.
Yeah,
these are adults making a lot of money to play this game.
This is not amateur athletics. D1 basketball is a professional sport. Okay, these are basically professional athletes. So
They are.
I mean, yeah. I mean, coaches should have a responsibility of getting these guys ready or whatever. But I think these players have a responsibility to amp themselves up as well, to a certain degree at least.
Yeah, I would say that the coaching staff. I've never been a part of any of the meetings they have where they do game plans and things like that. But I will say, with the showing what kind of halftime adjustments they can make tells me their game plans are solid going in. The guys are well prepared. It's not like they're not prepared. They are prepared to play, to do what they need to do.
Let's go on. This is the best coaching staff Penny's ever had over his tenure, and that's very ironic considering how it formed, right? With 4 staffers getting fired 2 months before the season, and it turns out that's what produces the best coaching staff Penny's ever put together. That's the wildest thing to me.
Well, I mean, he talked about it in one of and you were there, Roman. He talked about it at one of his radio shows where he said, I had to grow up. Right? Like I had to look at myself in the mirror and say, I've got to make some choices here, some changes here in terms of who he has around him. And it took letting go of some people that he cared about deeply, like deeper than just coaching staff to coaching staff, but friend to friend, brother to brother kind of thing. He had to let some of those guys go. And he brought in, I think Nolan Smith is going to go down as one of his better moves he's ever made in terms of coaching. So
yeah, he talked about it on the debut episode of the Penny Hardaway TV show as well. I mean, he's admitted it multiple times, how he's, failed or had shortcomings in, certain like organizational, I guess just parts of the job or whatever. I mean, the X's and O's and the coaching side of it, he says he's always had that kind of patted down, and I would agree. I mean, X's and O's, few can match Penny Hardaway in that department. I mean, it's Penny Hardaway, one of the greatest point guard minds the game of basketball's ever had. But the organizational side of things is where he's faltered in the past. And I think it's a very encouraging sign for Memphis fans and the Memphis program all around, that he's being very open about his previous shortcomings there, and also not just that, but taking action to make up for it and ensuring that it's better moving forward. And we're definitely seeing the output of that with what the Tigers have done on the court this season.
I just think, for me, there is one change that I think gets this team off to a better start in the first half, and that's starting Dane. I've got a lot of love for Musa. I think Musa does great things for the Tigers in spurts. I think what he does well, he does well. But shooting is such a rhythm and flow type of thing. It's very difficult to come out of starting the game off and just jacking threes and just getting it up there and making them. It's all about rhythm and flow. And
part of the reason why you're jacking up all those threes to start the game is because you can't reliably dump it down the Musa for a bucket, whereas you can with Dane.
I mean, listen, I don't mean this disrespectfully to these guys, but let's look at the stat line for the starting front court for the Tigers tonight. Nicholas Jourdain, 1 for 4, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 fouls. He had 2 points in the game. Musa Cisse, 1 for 2, 8 rebounds, 2 blocks, fouled out again with 2 points. I mean, when your starting front court ends the game with a total of 4 points, that is tough to overcome. And the way that you alleviate that is not by scheming them out to be better. You just split those 2 dudes up and put the best offensive front court player you have on your team starting the game.
Kind of like Kenny, to not be disrespectful here, Dane just should not be playing 8 less minutes than Jourdain. That shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
That should be flipped. That should be 34 for Danger and 26 for Jourdain.
Look at this. Eric G, I accept your apology.
Appreciate you.
You're a good man, Eric G. You're a good man.
Good man. Appreciate you all. Yeah. Well, y'all made awesome points. That to talk about the shooting stuff and how impactful Dane should be in the starting lineup. Against Clemson, you remember they started off with hitting threes. They got into the rhythm as soon as, basically from jump. Like, they were already in their flow. You felt that immediately. They got off to such a hot start, And today, like you said, Kenny, shooting is such it's so easy to be a streaky shooter, and not just college basketball, but dude, just playing basketball, playing pickup, playing with friends. It's being a streaky shooter is just natural. And I tweeted this during the game. Anybody who has played any level of basketball, no matter what level that may be, we all know that feeling that those players had. If you're not shooting threes, you just don't want to shoot the ball. Yep. You don't, because if you're going to think to yourself that if you're going to shoot, you're going to miss, and you're going to cost the team a possession and waste an opportunity. And we all know that feeling. There were moments in the first half where they'd drive and kick, or Danger would kick out, and PJ would have an open look, Tyrese would have an open look, Colby would have an open look, and they would all pass them up, and it would just lead to a nothing burger on offense because they haven't made any threes, and they're not in the rhythm at all. And so I'm fully with you all that if you start Dane, it just gives that extra dimension on offense to help the offense as a whole get into a better flow.
100%.
Now, question for y'all about Dane, though. Is there any concern about stamina throughout the year if you play him extended minutes like you all are saying? Is there any concern for you all or no?
I mean, that's with any player. That comes with any player at the end of the day. That's a risk you're taking with PJ Haggerty right now. It's a risk you're taking with Tyrese Hunter right now. It's a risk you're taking with Colby Rogers right now. So I don't think it's as any more of a concern for Danger as it would be for anyone else on the team, especially the three lead guards.
I want to say this to Carlos. If you want to get a job with Bluff City Media, just email me at kennystubblefield@gmail.com. Carlos, I can promise you I have played ball at a higher level than you've even thought about playing basketball. Sorry.
Talk to him, Kenny. Talk to him. Well, I bring up the point, though, because just looking at the amount of minutes that Dane has played throughout his career, freshman, 3 minutes a game. All right, he's a freshman. Sophomore year at Illinois, 20.5. Junior year at Illinois, 10.8 minutes. So now he's playing 24.4 minutes a game, and he's already playing by a good amount the most minutes he's ever played on a per game basis. So that's why I asked the question. Obviously the staff knows him, they know his health, they know the rotations are also tougher. But I'm just saying, I think it's at least a fair thing to bring up. Just it's a long season. They have to figure out a way to keep rotations clear I think it's just a fair thing to bring up.
Yeah. And another concern with potentially starting Dane that at least I have to, bring up here again, and I'm on the side of you should start Danger, but again, another concern that you could potentially have if Danger were to, stop coming off the benches, where does the bench offense come from?
100%.
Yeah,
sure.
Because that's been nothing but Danger so far.
Yeah.
I think that PJ Carter could have an opportunity to take that role at least a little bit if given the opportunity, because he's looked okay when he's been given the chance, but he's still kind of an unsure thing. I mean, you can't rely on Baraka Okoje to give you that right now. I like Baraka. I think he's a good player, but he's just not where he needs to be from an offensive standpoint right now. And
yeah, someone in our Discord during the game said this, and I agree with this. The Tigers' depth is going to be what ultimately, wherever their season goes, the Tigers' depth is what ultimately is going to stunt whatever they do, right? Like that
or raise the ceiling of whatever they do.
Right.
It can go either way. Yeah.
It could go either way, right? Like it's going to either be what their starting five, I put it up against anybody, right? Like I put it up against their top five players, I put up against anybody in the country. It's that depth that's going to be an issue. So yes, absolutely. Dane coming off the bench provides a spark off the bench. But again, we're not seeing the Tigers struggle with coming off, like starting fast and then having lulls in the middle of the game. What we're seeing is them starting slow and having to ramp up and catch up, in the second half and overtake them in the second half. That's an issue. And as much as I think Musa is a fantastic defender, I mean, clearly Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year while he was at Oklahoma State. Last time Penny Hardaway had a number one ranked defense in the country, Musa Cisse was the starting five for that team.
Yep.
I I mean, he's a damn good defensive player. His limitations offensively caused the Tigers to struggle in the start of the games. And I think that's where rotations come into play, right? Where you can go, hey, start Dane, get him 4 possessions, 5 possessions, and then bring Musa in, right? Like that kind of deal where you just get a flow, get a rhythm, get some buckets in the basket, and then start your rotation patterns. But
go ahead, Roman. Were you about to say something?
No, I didn't have.
Yeah, I saw a stat on the broadcast that the starters have scored 64 points per game, which is 9th in the nation. That's a pretty insane stat. It's just wild to think about. And I think this issue with the lack of depth, as y'all brought up, it's going to be an issue that this is like dealing with turnovers is just the reality of the Memphis Tigers. This lack of depth is just the reality of the Memphis Tigers. We've talked about it before on this show. It'll probably be a talking point on damn near every show until there's somebody reliable other than Danger to come off the bench and provide extra scoring. I like your PJ Carter shot, Roman. I like it a lot. I liked what I saw from Jared Harris in Maui in spot minutes, that he played with real effort and energy. And though he may not be, obviously, again, I'm not at practices. I'm not in the team meetings. I don't fully know. But I hope we get to see a little bit more of him throughout the year, just because I think he at least plays with energy and plays hard. So,
I'll tell you what he plays with. He plays with big stones. Like when he comes in, he makes plays, man. He makes plays. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
Yeah, he plays with stones.
Yeah. So I think it'll just be an issue that Memphis will have to continue to find ways to deal with. The rotations are something that Penny, I think, has done a good job this year dealing with the rotations. Whenever Moose is in foul trouble, or Dane or Jordan or whatever, I think he does a good job managing minutes. He also trusts his guys. If Moose has 3 fouls, he's not going to be super quick to pull the plug and take him out the game. He still trusts his guys. At the same time, he doesn't really have a choice but to trust them. But, at the very least, it's just the reality that I think this roster has for the team. Is it a concern? Again, like y'all talked about with the turnovers, I'm not going to call it a concern. It just is what it is with this basketball team. But what this basketball team is, they're a really good team. And I've seen a lot of people in the comments saying, give credit to Memphis for this win. Yeah, it was ugly, but still give them credit. Absolutely. Give them a lot of credit. This is still a solid win. Granted, not against the best Virginia team, but it's a solid win on the road against an ACC team. And hopefully that they can come back to Memphis, play Mississippi State, play Ole Miss, and carry the momentum. Keep it going. That's the hope.
Here's my thing about it, honestly, is that the depth is a concern, but this is still a college basketball team and not an NBA team at the end of the day. Houston consistently wins at a high level every single year, while mostly playing 6 to 7 dudes, 8 dudes at most. We just saw North Carolina just a couple of years ago run all the way to the Final Four as an 8 seed, while mostly playing 5 to 6 guys, maybe 7. So, I mean, depth is definitely, it's definitely a talking point. It's definitely something worth being discussed moving forward. But we have seen teams succeed at the highest levels, without, an insane amount of depth in the past. So it's not unthinkable for Memphis to potentially do the same.
And I do think I had this the way that I described it during the game. I think that one of the things that the Tigers, that what they do offensively and what they do as a team as a whole, what most fans want to see is they want to see an immediate knockout punch, right? They want to see prime Mike Tyson with the towel over his head, with the black shorts coming out and doing this and just first round knockout. Before the first TV timeout, they're up by 15. By the second TV timeout, they're up by 20, and it's
30.
over. Right? Like it's over. This team is an effective team in the way that they throw their punches, and the way that they throw their punches is if you're a fighter and you watch fighting, you a lot of commentators call it they deposit shots in the bank. And one of those things that they do is by body shots. Like it might not knock you out. Like it might not just immediately take you down, but it's going to make an impact. It's going to be an impact that you might not see in that moment, but it's going to make an impact, and it's going to make an impact. And it's going to, every time you hit that same spot, boom, 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 you're making an impact. This team is a body shots type of team. They are they're not a knockout power, like right hook to the jaw, like clean, cold out. They are a body shots team that you start to see the impact of their body shots in the second half. And you saw that tonight. You saw that against Clemson. You've seen that in a lot of their games where they take these they do things throughout the game that are depositing into the bank for them and withdrawing from the bank from the other team. And you start to see the impact of that later on, which is why I think you see the Tigers be such an effective second half team, because the things that they did in the first half are now taking effect in the second half. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely empathize with fans for, wanting that, knockout shot, at the beginning of games, especially a game like this where you blew out this Virginia team last year and it has a worse roster and they haven't beaten anybody besides Villanova for the entire season. So yeah, it's reasonable to expect Memphis to, just kind of, run over a team that, defeated, Kyle Neptune's Villanova Wildcats. Like Ron Sanchez's Virginia Cavaliers versus Kyle Neptune's Villanova Wildcats is essentially the Webster's Dictionary definition of a mid-off in 2024.
Wow.
And that's the only game that Virginia's really won all year. So yeah, I can understand why Memphis fans desired a bit more of a blowout here. But at the end of the day, this is kind of who Memphis is as well. And this is still, a tough road environment against a Virginia team that, has, played lots of quad one, competition. So, I mean, at the end of the day, Memphis still came out with the win, another quad two victory, continuing to bolster that resume. That's all that matters at the end of the day.
And I'll reiterate this. I just think I'm so impressed with how the Tigers have won these games, right? Like how they can win these games in so many different ways. And I think that's going to be super impactful going down the stretch. Like as they start to get into the back half of the AAC and they start getting into tournament ready, they're going to have all this tape of ways that they've won games against teams in multiple different ways, and where they've played multiple different game plans, they've won multiple different ways. That is huge for them. They have legitimate game film of them having to do that. It's not just they're knocking down 15 to 23 pointers a game and that's how they're just blowing folks out that way. They're doing it in multiple ways, and that's impressive for the Tigers right now, 11 games into the season.
Yeah, 100%. I echo the sentiments that both of y'all have said, no question. Another version or forms of body punches are also just being strong on the offensive glass. Memphis had 14 offensive rebounds, and each offensive rebound felt like a body blow to Virginia, because Virginia would play solid defense, and obviously when you play good defense, you don't really finish the possession until you get the defensive rebound. Well, they didn't close a lot of possessions out because they weren't able to get the defensive rebound. Memphis did a good job on the offensive glass, leading to second chance points. And like you said, Kenny, that Memphis has multiple ways to win basketball games. It's kind of why when they played Michigan State in Maui, I was actually not nervous for that game at all, because I was more nervous about the UConn game because I didn't know if they could win that up and down, fire from deep and high scoring type game. But I knew they can win the grind it out type game. They did that throughout the year before they got to Maui. And so, as we've seen thus far, Memphis has many ways to win basketball games. When Danger's on the floor, they have many ways to score the basketball. If they can just cut those damn turnovers down, yep, I think this team can really start to hit a groove. And, as we look ahead, they now got Mississippi State and they got Ole Miss. How are y'all feeling about those two games as the Tigers come home?
I mean, both of those games being at the Forum is, needless to say, a massive advantage for Memphis.
Huge.
If either of those games were on the road, I think it's a very unfavorable situation that you're looking at there. But because both those games are at FedEx Forum, Memphis should probably be the favorite heading into both of those, and I think they will ultimately win both of those. I think their guard play, coupled with the home crowd advantage, should be good enough to get the win there. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if either game ends up as a loss for Memphis, but with the momentum that they have right now, it's going to be the most raucous environment, or the most raucous environments that you'll probably see in FedEx Forum all year. I think the fans will show up for those games. I mean, Penny talked about that a lot on his radio show. I wrote a story on it on Monday night. He notices, the lesser attendance and what have you at FedEx Forum this season. But I think a lot of that can be attributed to the fact that Memphis has played 3 mid-major schools in its first 4 home games. That's going to change, in a big way over the next, 10 days or so. So I believe, that the home crowd will show up more than it probably will for the rest of the season, and what it has, so far this season as well. And yeah, I think they'll win overall. I think they'll win, even though one of those games could be lost, but they'll be 1-1 at the very least, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Okay.
I fully expect the Mississippi State Ole Miss games to be packed to the gills. Like I would love. I think the FedEx Forum is going to be raucous on those 2 games. It's a good thing too, man. I mean, they've got Mississippi State on Saturday, and then they have a full week off before they play again against Ole Miss. I mean, that's going to be big for them, to get some rest and all that. But yeah, I think the environment is going to be more key to these 2 games than I think we can give credit to. I think it's going to be extremely impactful. And so,
especially in the Ole Miss game.
Especially the Ole Miss game.
Because that's a legit regional rivalry. Like, not to say that Mississippi State isn't, but there's not nearly as much history there as there is with Ole Miss. Because, especially considering, Memphis had the game won at Ole Miss last year. They had that game won, and they gave it away towards the end. And honestly, like, no disrespect to Ole Miss, but, Memphis has largely been viewed as kind of the big brother compared to Ole Miss, on the basketball side of things. So it's usually not a good thing for Memphis to lose to Ole Miss in basketball. So whenever that happens, that leaves a pretty big sting in Memphis' side for the next year. So yeah, they'll definitely want to win that one badly.
I'll go. Oh man. Okay. I don't want to just drink the juice. I'm going to go 2-0 in the next 2. I'm going to go 2-0.
Hey,
Kenny, what you say has no impact on what happens. You can say whatever you want.
I know it has an impact on me, Roman.
Yeah.
It has an impact on me.
Right.
I don't want to be that guy, but I'm going to follow y'all's lead and say the Tigers go 4-0 in this crazy stretch.
I mean, they put themselves in position to do so.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you what, they win these 2 games. They go for
Hey, go to hell, Ole Miss.
Old PP. Oh my gosh.
Hey.
Yeah, I love it when King Meeks is in the chat, man. That man's he's the best.
Now, if the Tigers go 4-0, they win these next 2 games. They go 4-0 over this really pivotal stretch before they enter conference play. I think Memphis, you're looking at a top 10 team in the nation, and it's now all up to conference play, like we had discussed. But look, I let's pump the brakes a little bit. They got to go 2-0 first. They got to get the job done against Mississippi State and Ole Miss. Granted, they're at home, which, like you said, Kenny, fully echo that. I think we're underestimating how impactful that crowd will be. Now, I get goosebumps thinking about the crowd against Houston, the crowd against Alabama. I get those crowds were just nuts. I know that this crowd, y'all, like where's the chat here? Like Timo said, pack the MF Forum, pack that thing, be loud, get in there, cheer for these Tigers. They deserve all of y'all's support. They played hard. They're being led by, in my opinion, Coach Penny Hardaway's best coaching job of his time at Memphis thus far. I think he's been awesome. He's been such a great coach with his adjustments, with how he handles rotations, his in-game plays, play calling, defensive schemes, his switching. I think this is his best coaching performance thus far. So this team deserves all of the support from y'all. Go to the Forum, support this Memphis Tigers team. And that's all I got to say. Do y'all have anything else to add before we get up out of here?
No, I mean, again, just to kind of round things up here, probably a tougher than expected game for Memphis here tonight. But again, you can definitely, credit that to a very bad first half offensively. Again, they just shot, 14% from three and 29% from the field in the first 20 minutes or so of basketball. And when that happens, you're going to find yourself in an uncomfortable situation at the end of games more often than not. But, nice perseverance to come out with a victory against a very tough Virginia team.
Yep. Echo Roman, show up to the forum, man. Let's have some fun this weekend, these next two weekends. Let's do it, man. Let's have a good time. Cheer these Tigers on to victory, man. They deserve it. They play hard. They work their ass off every week. Let's come play, man. Let's come have fun with them. Beat Ole Miss, man. Beat Ole Miss, baby. Let's go.
Beat Ole Miss, beat Mississippi State. As John Moran said to Steph Curry, let's have some fun. Let's have some fun, man. Let's do it. Everyone pack the forum. Go Tigers. To everybody who tuned in, thank y'all for tuning in to Tigers Live. I'm Francis Carlotta, Kenny Stubblefield, Roman Cleary, two of the best in the biz. Be sure to subscribe to Bluff City Media, like the show, comment. Go ahead, Kenny.
Yeah, man. I want to say this. I'm so glad I remembered this. There's a gentleman in the city who, when I first got into this game, was the first guy I ever saw doing compilation highlight packages for high school players in the city of Memphis. His name was Mikey Elliott. And Mikey created a brand for himself that was just like, he was one of the first to do it. And he was young and he was good with the camera and his edits were clean and he would just go to game. He would just be there. He would be there at every game. And Mikey was just so good. And he never really he wasn't a big self-promoter. He wasn't trying to go big with it or anything. He just was doing. I saw a video of him talking about it where he said, man, I just wanted to try something new. I wanted to try something different. And he was one of the first guys in the city from Memphis that really took his passion for storytelling, his passion for cameras, and his passion for basketball to highlight young kids in the city of Memphis that played basketball. And I'll say this, there are tons of kids that came out of high school that are playing, whether it's D2 or D1 basketball, that are in the pros now, that if you were to go back to their first highlight packages, it was done by Mikey Elliott Productions, and just did a fantastic job. And so you can thank Mikey Elliott for putting you on the map. He was one of the first guys to take those packages and put them on YouTube and do all that kind of stuff. And man, we just got tragic news today that he passed away suddenly this morning. And just want to send a shout out, man, to his family. He was young, has a family, and I just my heart was hurting for him and his family today. And I just wanted to say, from Bluff City Media, from myself as a individual, I just wanted to say, man, shout out to Mikey and prayers for his family, man. It's just a devastating day for everybody that knows basketball in the city of Memphis, man. Mikey's just a staple, and it's just so sad that he's gone. But wanted to end the show on that, just saying shout out to Mikey and prayers for his family.
Yeah, it's a very awful, sad situation. Prayers up, to everyone involved there. I never got the opportunity to ever meet him or interact with him, but he undoubtedly made a huge impact, for many ball players here in the city, and just, many young people in the city of Memphis all around. So, huge appreciation and shout out to him, and again, just prayers up to his family, his friends, and just everyone involved in his situation.
Yep. Couldn't say it better from either of y'all. Prayers to everyone all the lives that he touched, all the lives that were a part of his life. Prayers to all of them, all the best to all of you. This is bigger than basketball, y'all. Basketball is just a game. We cover a game. Life is what matters, and cherish everything that he did for Memphis basketball. And to all of y'all watching, be sure to give your loved ones a hug, because
dude,
yeah, give all of them a hug.
I just want to, and I'll just say, this is the last thing I'll say. One of the things that, as I grieved Mikey's passing today, even though I didn't know Mikey well, we talked a few times, I felt disappointed in myself that I was like, I want to give him his flowers, tonight, but he's gone, man. Like, and it's like so sad to me. Like, I'm like, man, we gotta. I want to be better at giving folks their flowers when they're alive, and so that's that. That was one of the main takeaways I took away from it was just, man, like he deserved his flowers when he was alive, and we're having to give it to him now that he's suddenly passed away. And that's just that I want to be better at not waiting to give flowers. So,
yeah. Kenny, you're gonna make me cry, man.
Oh, come on,
man. No, but it's real. It's very real. Very real. Like I said, hug your loved ones. Tell them you care about them. Tell them you love them. It don't matter to everybody. And to all of y'all who tuned in, all love for all of you. Kenny, Roman, again, all love to both of you. Y'all are fantastic at what y'all do. And like I said before, let's pack the form. Support this team. Support Coach Hardaway. Support the staff. Support this roster that's playing their tails off. That's number 21 in the nation that has a chance to do something special this year. Go pack the form. Let's go Tigers. And until next time, we'll see y'all then. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Tigers Live. If you enjoyed this episode, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. For comprehensive coverage of all things Memphis sports, head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co and find out how you can become an insider. We will see you back here next time.